You're watching Cox Connections only on Cox 11. As a public safety agency, the Virginia Department of Transportation responds to various emergencies on the roads to keep the public safe and to keep Virginia moving. And VDOT is sending the message out to the community about the importance of being ready in case of bad weather, natural disaster, or other emergency situations. Here to help you get prepared is Hampton Roads District Administrator for VDOT, Dennis Huer. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Oh, my pleasure for having me. Thank you.
You know, this is a very important topic, Dennis, as you and I were talking before the cameras. Talk a little bit about what's VDOT's emergency plan. How do you get ready as an agency for these kind of potential disasters?
Well, there's two components to any disaster. It's what does the agency or the responders do, and the second is what's personal responsibility. Mm-hmm. So the first part would be is VDOT, we have an evacuation plan. We pre-stage equipment. We partner with the Virginia National Guard, Virginia State Police. We bring in those additional forces to supplement our folks. We have our maintenance contractor that's also a part of our team. People have seen the hurricane gates. So we're staged for an evacuation should the governor declare an emergency and say, please evacuate.
How do you go about exercising these plans? Do you have drills and practice runs on these kinds of things?
Yes, we have what we call command post exercises where we sit around tabletop and respond to scenarios. Just recently, we sent folks out to exercise all the gates to make sure that they were in working order, they could be lowered. And then about a year ago, we had a lane reversal exercise where we actually deployed people to all the ramps, lowered the gates, and then with the Virginia State Police, we ran a sweep of both lanes going towards Richmond and back to Richmond. So we have our plan in place, we practice it, and we're ready.
And it's interesting you mentioned it's coordinated by VDOT, but yet you're involving local governments, you're involving local fire and rescue. It looks like this is a well-coordinated series of training events, and that plan is well coordinated with other municipalities. Is that the case?
Absolutely. Virginia Department of Emergency Management is the umbrella organization. Mm-hmm. And then VDOT plays a part, like I said, the Virginia State Police, actually local municipalities as well, because we're using some of those off-ramps in a lane reversal for shelter. Should we have broken down vehicles, we can get them off the highway. We have wrecker services, we have fuel services. Now that's not to imply that citizens ought to say, well, I can pull into a rolling gas stop on 64.
Well, that's a great segue. So VDOT and everyone has done this great job of planning, but you mentioned earlier there's another piece of this, and that's the personal responsibility. All these great plans that VDOT does could go down the tubes if people aren't ready. I mean, if that car breaks down because someone hasn't been prepared, this whole plan goes down the tube. What is the message for the citizen listening to this in terms of being ready for it in the event of an emergency?
Well, as we prepare for the hurricane season, we run cycling of the tide gates on the Midtown Tunnel, for example. We check the gates at the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel to make sure they can close to protect our assets. Same thing should apply to the citizens. If you're in a low-lying area, know that you're in a low-lying area that's maybe subject to flooding. Plan your rallying point with your family members. Get your prescriptions filled in advance. Have some water, have some canned food, so you have a hurricane-ready package that you can take with you should you need to leave. Gas up your car if a hurricane is forecast a couple of days out. So be ready, know where to go, notify your family members, and frankly, like we do, practice your evacuation plan. It may seem kind of corny, but it's the same thing that happens when you have a family in your home. If you're preparing for a fire, you have family members upstairs and downstairs. How do you get out? Where do you go? How do you take a nose count of where all of your family members are that they're accounted for? And then know where you're going. Are you going to take the route on the lane reversal on 64 heading to Richmond? Or would it be better for you to head west on 58, heading inland, and then get to I-95 to be able to go north or south?
Yeah. So what do you say to someone who says, well, all that preparation, it's great, but if something really gets bad, I'll just wait for someone to rescue me? What do you say to someone who's thinking that way? That's their plan.
The best plan is the one that if you're in a risky area and you know you have to evacuate, you've got to make the decision to evacuate when the sun is shining. Because what happens is hurricanes, we all know, are unpredictable, and we have a cone of influence that it may or may not hit. So if you're in that target window, it's make the decision to get out early. Maybe you will lose a day's pay or something like that, or incur an expense. But if you're not alive or you're not able to recover from that, what good does that do you? So it's get out early if you're in a risky area. And that's when all of the roads will be open. And then the other point of that is, when we hit the onset of tropical force winds, which is 39 sustained miles per hour, we pull our employees off and go to shelter.
So there is no one coming to rescue.
No, because what we're
because that is an important point for those listening to know. There really is no one at that point. You're waiting for this thing to blow through at that point.
Absolutely. We support the evacuation and the Commonwealth in evacuating people. But then when it becomes unsafe for our employees to be out there, we go to shelter so that once the storm passes, we're able to respond to get those lines of communication and those roadways open, so then disaster recovery and assistance has free mobility within our area. Plus, we want to make sure that our assets are protected. We don't want to leave the bridge in the up condition. We don't want to leave the tunnel open without closing the gates and the tunnel flood.
During Irene, I think you actually closed the Midtown Tunnel, didn't it?
Absolutely. Part of our plan, knowing that it was coming and knowing the way the tides and the rain went, we closed the Midtown Tunnel gates, we closed the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel gates, and then we protected our assets.
We only have 30 seconds left. What's the one overarching message you want to leave to anyone out there listening as we getting ready to enter hurricane season this year?
It's personal preparedness, and what I would recommend is that go to our website, get the hurricane evacuation guide. It leads you through the planning, and then have that personal
website
plan
up on the screen so everyone can see that to make sure that they can get that. But that's the key.
It's virginiadot.org. You can download this hurricane guide and then work with your family members to come up with your evacuation plan.
Well, Dennis, thank you for being with us today, and thank you for all you do to help our citizens remain safe. Coming up next, we brought in the Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of Hampton and the head of Cox Virginia's Risk Management and Safety Team to give local businesses and residents some tips on how to protect your family and property or business in the event of a disaster. Stay tuned for more Cox Connections.